YouTube vinyl community, Beatles fans, random people on the internet, my name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about the Beatles' 1970 compilation, Hey Jude, or as it was originally called, The Beatles Again, released February 26, 1970 on Apple Records. Now, this album is a compilation. It comprises singles, B-sides, album tracks that had not been released by Capitol Records in the 60s. And there's something about this album I've always gravitated towards ever since I was a little kid. I've loved the album cover. I've loved this little picture of them up top. I thought the back cover was really cool. And especially knowing that these pictures were taken on their last photo shoot in August of '69, I think there was something really special about this album. Just aesthetically, it just looks cool. You have the track listing on the bottom like this, and it doesn't even say the Beatles on it. And this, you know that these four dudes equal Beatles, and that's pretty cool. So this album was released in the time in between Abbey Road and Let It Be. The Let It Be project had started in early '69, and they spent months on it being completely miserable and unhappy with the results and scrapping the whole thing and being like, you know what, let's just go ahead and make Abbey Road. And they did that, and they were like, okay, we're done, see ya. Um, and then eventually they were like, well, we should probably put these songs out somehow. They're pretty good. I mean, we have Let It Be sitting in my back pocket somewhere. That might be a good song to put out someday. Or The Long and Winding Road. No big deal. Just The Long and Winding Road. Um, Anyways, they were working on those and kind of like, fiddling around with those, doing overdubs, other instrumentation. And it wasn't coming out for the targeted release date, and it wouldn't come out for months after this album came out. So in that time, Alan Klein was acting as their manager, and much to the dismay of Paul McCartney. But he was like, you know what? I'm going to strike up some deals. I'm going to make these guys even more lucrative than they could have ever imagined. And we're going to get another album out in America and make more money for these guys and put something out with the Beatles' name on it in between Let It Be coming out. Because you got to remember in the 60s in America, especially from Capitol Records, like they put out albums constantly from the same bands. Especially with the Beatles. I mean, 1964 saw like 4 or 5 albums on loan. So, you know, because they loved making those compilations. But Alan Klein had this guy named Alan Stickler of his company Abco put together a compilation of songs that either were B-sides or singles or had been released on a different label, and try to make an album out of it. Now, he definitely missed a lot of songs like From Me to You, Misery, There's a Place, I'm Down, The Inner Light, Skelliptik, which is the German version of She Loves You, and the Get Back single version. I mean, a lot of those songs could have fit on this album. There's only 10 songs on this thing, even though Hey Jude is really long. But, I don't know, they could have put a few more on here. Maybe stylistically they chose not to do the early ones because this album really heavily focuses on 65 to 70, or 69, I guess. So maybe There's a Place Where Misery wouldn't have found a good home here. It would have been a little too poppy, next to Rain or something. Maybe that was a reason. I have no idea. Anyways, this album is unique in their discography because several of the mixes were unique to this release itself. One of the things I found interesting when doing research about this album was that Can't Buy Me Love and I Should Have Known Better, the stereo mixes from on this album of those songs were actually released on the mono copy of A Hard Day's Night on United Artists. So you have a mono album, but then those two songs are in stereo. Go figure. Anyway, they took those two stereo tracks, put them on this thing. Paperback Writer has a stereo mix that's only on this LP. It's nowhere else. It's only on this album. So that's pretty cool. Rain, Lady Madonna, Hey Jude, and I think Don't Let Me Down had all been given new stereo remixes just for this album also. So in that sense, it's kind of a special album. Just to get those special mixes of those songs. If that doesn't really do anything for you and you just want to hear the songs for what they are, you can easily make this album on your own CD or on iTunes or Spotify or whatever. But, they have eventually released this thing on CD as of a couple of years ago. And apparently it was on tape well into the 90s, but I don't remember ever seeing it when I was a kid. I would have bought it if I did see it. So, yeah. There's not a whole lot more to say about this thing beyond the fact that it's a compilation album. And it was put out basically to hold people over before Let It Be came out. But, I wanted to put my 2 cents in on this thing because there's something about this album I've always found interesting. And even more interesting with the fact that the title was originally The Beatles Again, and then at the last second was changed to Hey Jude. So because of that, the labels themselves have two catalog matrix numbers. There's an SO385, S meaning stereo, and O was the code given to a $6.98 price tag. And then SW385, S for stereo, and W was a $5.98 price tag. So when it was first going to come out, it was going to be SO385, and it was going to be called the Beatles again. And then it was changed to Hey Jude, and they thought, well, we should probably give it an SW code because people have already bought most of these songs on singles or on, from B-sides or whatever else. Like, a lot of this stuff had kind of already been out, but just not collected in an album. So they gave fans the benefit of the doubt and said, hey, you kind of already own this stuff already, so we'll give you a lower price tag. So that's why you'll see a lot of records that will say the Beatles again or Hey Jude and also have the mismatched call matrix numbers. So, it's kind of a screwy thing to keep up with, but it's also one of the fun things about records is that there's so many variants of the same thing, Some great tracks on here: Hey Jude, Revolution, Paperback Writer, I Should Have Known Better, Lady Madonna, Can't Buy Me Love, Don't Let Me Down, Ballad of John and Yoko, Rain, and Old Brown Shoe. So here's the back cover, which apparently the back cover was supposed to be the front cover, and the front cover was supposed to be the back cover, but I don't know. I think there's something about this picture that is a little more, landmarkish or groundbreaking or something, and maybe that's just because it's how it's looked for 40-odd years, but I don't know. Something about this thing has always been cool, and knowing that these pictures were taken at the last Beatles photo shoot in August of '69, it's also kind of nice to see that too, and this really does act as kind of like a, tidying up loose ends, I guess, at that time. So it must have been exciting when this album came out to be like, hey, I finally can have Hey Jude and I can have Paperback Writer and Old Brown Shoe all in the same album. That must have been a pretty cool thing. This album's pretty common to find, so I think it sold like almost 4 million copies by the end of the '70s. So, it's out there. It's not super hard to get a hold of, but yeah, there's really not much else I can say about it. Cool compilation. I mean, it's not even really worth rating because I would just give it a 10 out of 10. I mean, I love all the songs on here. It's the Beatles, man. You can't go wrong with the Beatles, man. You know what? I think I'll just have to end it there. There's not much else I can say. That's kind of the history behind it. It's been released on tape and CD, finally, as part of the U.S. Capitol CD releases a couple of years ago. Yeah, that's it. This has been the Beatles' Hey Jude album review. Just wanted to make a quick video and talk about it and hold it and look at it because I think it's just really fun to look at. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.